100%. Very true. All right. Yeah, it's very difficult. Very difficult. Yeah. It's because man is B'Tselem Elokim. The Rebbe Shalom is limitless. I want to believe that I'm limitless also. All right, I will say good morning. Today's daf is Tzaddik. We have a lot to do today. 90. We are picking up on Peites Amud Beis, and we are picking up Meiser Kodem La'ofos, I believe. Right? Meiser Kodem La'ofos. Okay, so we'll say that is 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 lines up from the bottom. Our shir this morning is dedicated by Akiva Noach Andrews in honor of his wife, Dr. Karen Andrews, on her special birthday ending with 0. Okay, smart man, by the way, very smart man. Not too good. I'm sure it's 30 or 40. That's wonderful. Good. So we wish Dr. Andrews a happy birthday. I may have asked him Shanim Tovos. Okay, we'll say let's begin. So remember again, we're dealing in the Mishnah with the what we'll call carbonic hierarchy. Ultimately, again, trying to figure out when you have multiple these different carbonos, which one comes first. So the Mishnah said, Meiser Kodem La'ofos. So remember again, Meiser Behema comes before a bird offering. So says the Gemara, Sa'adraba Ofos Kadmi Shekin Kadshe Kadashim. I don't understand. Birds should come first. Why? Because they're Kadshe Kadashim. Or as Rabbi say, the Rashi says over here, Afilu Achilas Adam Ba'in Kadshe, meaning in other words that they're Kadshe Kadashim. So this should come before Meiser Behema. Afilu Hachi Min Zevach Adif. To which the Gemara says, no. Still, any type of animal carbon will always come before birds, because I will say birds are considered to occupy a secondary sacrificial tier. So because again, therefore, any animal sacrifice will always come before the birds. Good. Amar Ravina Bar Shila. Emuri kachim kalim sheyatzu lifnei zrikas damim psulim. So we'll say another interesting discussion that we're beginning now. So limbs are to be burnt to limbs back. So limbs of kadshe kadashim that left the Beis Hamikdash prior to the sprinkling of blood. So, psulim, they're possible because they've been taken outside of the Beis Hamikdash. V'tana tuna, and if say artana, there seems to be a tana that supports this. Mipnei shu zevach v'yeshno kadshe kadashim damav ve'emurin. So we'll say furthermore again, based on what our Mishnah said also, because it is a carbon, and ultimately again it is kadshe kadashim in its blood applications and its limbs. Bishlam ve'emurin les luba ofos. So we'll say I understand the burning of limbs doesn't apply to bird offerings. Eladam miha isei. So we'll say, but yet there is a blood application by birds. Alav kamash malan emurin ki damo. Rather, what you have to say, Abba says, when it comes to kadshe kadashim, that the limbs will be like the blood. Ma damo lifnei zrika. Just like ultimately again, the blood ultimately again could be invalidated if taken out before zrika. Afe mur kodem zrika. Vikakari lehu kadshe kadashim. Umad damo mifsal biyotzen, and just like the blood could become invalid if it's taken outside, af emurin mifsal biyotze. So too the limbs can be taken, are possible if they're taken outside as well. So we'll say this ultimately is again is just bringing a proof to the statement that if you have emure kadshe kadashim, kachim kalim, the limbs of kachim kalim that are taken out before zrika, ultimately again, even though I will say I might have thought that before zrika maybe it's not bona fide kachim kalim yet. Kamash Malon know that if you take it out even before Zrika, ultimately it will be possible. To which the Gemara says, Ne'em Misayele, Basar Kadshe Kadshim Kalim Shiatzef Nezrika Stamim. So we'll say, let's analyze this a bit more. If you have the meat of Kadshim Kalim, which by the way is lower sanctity sacrificial meat, so meat of Kadshim Kalim that's taken out to the Beis Hamikdash, Lifnei Zrikas Damim, prior to Zrika. Rabbi Yochanan says, kosher, it is kosher. Reish Lakish Amar Pasal. Reish Lakish says it's Pasal. What's the pshat? Rabbi Yochanan Amar Kasher Hoel V'Sofo. Let's say so. What Rabbi Yochanan says as follows: since at the end of it, remember this is Kachim Kalim. The halacha of Kachim Kalim will say is that it can be consumed anywhere in Yerushalayim. So Rabbi Yochanan's logic is: listen, at the end of the day, this meat is going to be taken out of Yerushalayim anyway. So the fact, all right, you would have preferred that it's done after Zrika, instead it's being done before Zrika, but that will not invalidate the meat. So ultimately, again, Reish Lakish are apostle, Adayin lo higia zman halotzos. Reish Lakish says, no, it's possible. Why? Because even though ultimately, again, that meat can be eaten outside of Yerushalayim, that's only when? After Zrika. Right now, again, the Zrika has not yet been done. So because of that, you may not go ahead and take it out of the Beis HaMikdash. And if you do so, it will be possible. Sa'ad kan lo pligi ela bebasar. So we'll say up until now, again, remember, so they're only arguing in terms of sacrificial meat. Aval be'emurin lo. And we'll say, sounds like with sacrificial limbs, right, limbs that are to be burnt on the Mizbeach, that ultimately, again, both would agree that if they are taken out of the Beis HaMikdash prior to Zrika, they will be possible. To which the Gemara says, not necessarily. Huadin de be'emurin nami pligi. Well, say it could very well be that ultimately they're arguing about emurin as well. V'hata kamifligi bebasar. So why are they arguing? Why do they frame the machlokes when it comes to sacrificial meat? Lo di'acha kochol du Reish Lakish. To teach me ultimately again the power of the position of Reish Lakish. Da'afilu basar desofo lotzes. Amar adayin lo higia zmano lotzes. To teach me what I was saying. To teach me that even when it comes to sacrificial meat, that ultimately again the sofo lotzes, that is going to go ahead and ultimately be removed. Reish Lakish still, or I should say, even when it comes to sacrificial meat, where there ultimately will be a license to eat it outside of the Beis HaMikdash, Reish Lakish still holds that if you take it out before Zrika, it will be possible because it is not yet the time to go ahead and take it out to Yerushalayim. So we'll say, let's say this is Machlokes Tanoim. Emuri kachim kalim shetzov neizrikas damim. If you have sacrificial limbs, we'll say these are the limbs that are normally burnt on the Mizbeach. So if you have sacrificial limbs of kachim kalim that were taken out before Zrika, Rabbi Eliezer Omer ein mo'olin b'hem. Rabbi Eliezer says they are not subject to me'ilah, top of tzaddik. Ve'in chayav l'hem mishum pigol no sar v'tamei, and you're not chayiv as a result of pigol, no sar, or ultimately again becoming tamei. Rabbi Akiva says no. Mo'olin b'hem, they are subject to me'ilah. V'chayavin alein mishum pigol no sar v'tamei, and you will be chayiv ultimately again for them as a result of pigol, no sar, and tamei. My love, bidahadr ailinu pligi. So we're not talking about a case where what? I took the emurin out. I took the emurin out before Zrika, and then what did I do? I brought them back in. So now the shaila is, can I go ahead and offer it up? Ubahapligi mar savar mifsali biyotze. So one opinion says that once you take it out, it's puzzle and you can't offer it up. Umar savar lo mifsali biyotze. And the other opinion says no, it does not become puzzle as a result of having taken it out. Amra Papa, no. Bidahadr ailinu kuli amalo pligi. We'll say when you bring it back in, everyone agrees. I should say no one disagrees. So we'll say, so what's the machlokes case? Vahacha b'di'isinu avroi pligi. We'll say here the issue is ultimately where what? Where halacha l'maisa, the sacrificial item, the limbs, are outside. B'di'isinu avroi. So baha pligi. But so listen to this. So the fundamental machlokes over here is where Rashi says b'di'isinu avroi. B'shas Zrika, it's almost right across in Rashi, where I took the limbs out of the Beis HaMikdash, and they are still outside at the time of the Zrika. So what's the machlokes? Demar savar ein Zrika mo eles liyotze. So we'll say one opinion holds that what? That Zrika does not work ultimately again for limbs that are outside. So Umar savar, the other opinion says, Zrika mo eles liyotze. That Zrika will work even to permit limbs that are outside of the Beis HaMikdash. To which the Gemara says, Vaha, Rav Papa hu da Amar, b'di'isinu avrai kuli amalo pligi, b'di'alinu legavai pligi. But Rav Papa said before, no. The machlokes, everyone agrees that if the limbs are outside, no one disagrees. Namely, that it's puzzle. Where's the machlokes case? Where again, Rav said you bring it, you take it out, you bring it back in, and ultimately again now the shaila is what's the status of those limbs once they have been brought back in. To which the Gemara says, Hanimili gabi shtei lechem The lav gufei dizvicha. We'll say, when do we say that ultimately, again, there is, hanimili. So we'll say, when is this true? With something like shtei halechem. We'll say, so the shtei halechem, the two loaves, which are brought as an accompaniment to the carbon. Aval imurin de gufa dezvichahu bedeasinu avrai pligi. So we'll say, ultimately, again, when do we say that ultimately, if it's outside, that there's no argument? That's in a case of like the shtei halechem. We'll say the shtei halechem ultimately, again, is not the carbon itself. That's when we'll say in Rav Papa's model, everyone agrees. But when it comes to imurin, which will say actual sacrificial items, then in that case, that means that's part of the carbon itself. That's where, even according to Rav Papa, ultimately, again, they would still disagree. So we'll say, so the Gemara ends off with this interesting machlokes. Doesn't seem to resolve it over here. This interesting machlokes about what happens if you take sacrificial items out. So really, there's a two-pronged question. What happens if you take it out and you bring it in before Zrika? So what's the status ultimately again of those imurin? But furthermore, what's the status of those limbs ultimately if they're outside while Zrika is done? Does the Zrika permit them or not? That's the fundamental machlokes. Good. A little bit weiter. So we get a little bit sidetracked with that. Now back to the sacrificial hierarchy. Ophos kodmans. Remember again, what did the Mishnah say? That ophos ultimately again come before menachos. That any type of oath, any type of bird offering comes before a mincha offering. So the Gemara says, Adrabba, I would say menachos kodmos. A mincha should come first. Why? Sheken yeshnan betzibor kibiyachid. Because Rabbi say a mincha can be offered up ultimately again as part of a tzibor, right? As a communal offering and as an individual offering. See, Rabbi say oath is only brought, ophos are only brought as individual offerings. Mincha could be a communal offering or an individual offering. We'll say, where does that come up? Rashi points out over here, minachos yeshnan betzibor, minchas ha'omer u'shtei halechem. So we'll say, for example, the carbon omer, the shtei halechem, those are karbanos ultimately again that are communal offerings, and yet they are menachos. But yet when it comes to bird offerings, Rashi says over here, I'm sorry, let's do please. Rashi says, Oaf eno betzibor desanya vekri vayachid maybe oaf vein zero mani vein oaf. So I would say that a mincha should come before an oaf because mincha could be brought as a communal offering and oaf cannot. To which the Gemara says, "Afilu hachi mine damim adifi." Even though that is true, because birds have blood application, birds come first. Birds come first. So because again, bird has matan damin as opposed to menachos where obviously there is no blood application, therefore birds will come first. So the Gemara goes weiter. Minchas chote. So remember again, the Mishnah says that a minchas chote, right, a mincha that is brought as a sin offering, comes before a minchas nedava, a voluntary mincha. So the Gemara says, Adrabba, I would say just the opposite. Minchas nedava kodemes shekin te'una shemen ulavona. But I could have said just the opposite, that a minchas nedava comes first. Why? Because ultimately, again, it requires shemen and lavona. Right? We'll say it requires oil and frankincense. Right? So the Gemara says, so meaning the minchas nedava requires more, I guess we'll call it, not accessories, but carbonic add-ons than the minchas chote. Afilu achi minchas chote abba al chet adifa d'mecha peres. So we'll say, because what we said before, nevertheless, minchas chote will come first. Why? Because it atones. The ability for a carbon to atone is a meaningful thing. Yibailu. So we'll say now the Gemara says shayla. Minchas sota minchas nedava eza mehen kodema. So we'll say, so now pretty much we've finished our hierarchies. Now we're going to delve a little bit more into some greater specifics. So we'll say, so what happens in the following situation? Minchas sota. So the minchas sota again is the mincha brought by a sota, a woman suspected of adultery, or minchas nedava, which is a voluntary mincha offering. Which one of those comes first? Ezman kodemes. Minchas nedava kadma shekein tuna shemen uluvona. So one I can say the minchas nedava should come first. Why? Because it has more carbonic add-ons. It has shemen, levona. Those add-ons should make it more chashuv. O dilma, or perhaps minchas sota kadma shekein ba'a levarer avon. Remember again on the other end of the website, maybe the minchas sota comes first. Why? Because it comes, I will say, so this is actually interesting. this is not really kapara, because the mincha of the sota is not really mechaper, right? It's not a kapara, it's not a sin offering, but what it does do is it's there to go ahead and kind of try to figure out if she has sinned or not. In other words, it is part of the process for clarification or clarification is maybe the wrong word, is birur, right? Birur. So, I'm sorry? Well, not even exoneration, because remember again, this is part of the process to figure out, did she sin or not? Well, I'm sorry? Investigation, good. Investigation, clarification, potential exoneration, right, of the woman, but certainly not what? Now, but I want to be clear, it's not kapara. That's going to be the operative point over here. It is not atonement. So, but the idea is that it would appear to be maybe in the atonement family, even if it's not atonement directly. So which one comes first? The minchas chote, the minchas nedava. Excuse me, the minchas chote, the minchas nedava. So tashma, minchas chote, kodem, the minchas nedava. So what did the Mishnah say? That the mincha, a mincha brought to atone for a sin, a minchas chote, comes before a minchas nedava. Minchas chote hu tekama le minchas nedava. So I can infer from this that it is dafka the minchas chote, which comes before a minchas nedava. Ha minchas sota lo. And I could infer from this that the minchas sota does not come before the minchas nedava, to which the Gemara says, not necessarily. Mikatane mipneishi mechaperes. Does it say that the minchas chote comes before the minchas nedava because it atones? It doesn't say that. Rather, it says mipneishi ba al chit katani. What it says is the minchas chote comes first because it comes as a result of sin. V'hanami ba al chit. And similarly, again, by the minchas sota, she's also bringing her mincha. Why? As a result of chait. So maybe because she's also bringing her mincha as a result of chait, therefore it does come before the minchas nedava as well. So the Gemara says, Tashma, zu kodemes lezu, shezu ba min achitin, v'zu ba min asorin. So let's listen to this. So the Mishnah goes on, or the Brisa goes on. The Brisa says, this mincha comes before this mincha, because this one comes from chitin, from wheat, and this one comes from sa'orin, from grain. So we'll say, so the Gemara says over here as follows. What the Gemara is pointing out is as follows, which is if you have two menachos, one that comes from wheat, one that comes from barley. So which mincha comes first? The mincha that comes from wheat comes before, ultimately again, from barley. The idea being that just wheat is more chashuv than barley. So we'll say, so now this is interesting. My lav minchas nedava la minchas sota. So we'll say, so which minachos come from wheat, which minachos come from barley? We assume the mincha that comes from barley, we'll say, is the minchas sota. So essentially what the Mishnah is telling, what the Brisa is telling me is that what? That the minchas nedava, which comes from wheat, comes before the minchas sota, which comes from barley. To which the Gemara says, not necessarily. My love minchas nedava minchas sota. Lo, minchas chote la minchas sota. No, what it means is that the mincha of the chote, which is also brought from barley, comes before the mincha of the sota. To which the Gemara, I'm sorry, lo minchas chote la minchas sota. Seifokle dehi mechaperes v'halo mechaperes. And obviously, I'd say it's more obvious to me that the minchas chote should come before the minchas sota for one simple reason, because the minchas chote atones, the minchas sota does not atone. So whenever there's an atonement factor, that which atones always takes sacrificial precedence. Ve'elamai minchas nedava seifo klei dezu tu'una shemen ulevona v'zu eino tu'una shemen ulevona. We'll say ultimately again say that the minchas nedava will come first because ultimately again it has shemen ulevona, right? It has more carbonic accessories. Ella chad mitrei tami. Rather, the Gemara says you're right. It's going to come before for one of the two reasons. So we'll say, so halacha l'maisa, how do we paskin? So first of all, again, on the simple case, we know that a minchas chote comes before a minchas nedava, ultimately again because of its atonement capacity. Wherever there is atonement, ultimately again that item, that sacrificial item, always comes first. What about the case of the minchas sota and the minchas nedava? Which one comes first in that category? So we'll say, so the Rambam in Hilchos Tamidin U'Usafin, Perek Tes Halacha Yud says as follows. First of all, the Rambam goes a little bit out of order of the Gemara. He says, minchas chitim kodemes la minchas so'orim. So first of all, whenever you have a mincha that's brought of wheat, that always comes before a mincha of barley. And that's independent, by the way, of the identity of the particular mincha. That's independent. So wheat always comes before barley. Minchas chote kodemes la minchas nedava mipnei shi balachet. So this will say everyone agrees that what? That the mincha v'chote, right, comes before a minchas nedava, ultimately again because it has atonement capacity. Last year, the Rambam says, what about a minchas nedava or minchas sota? We'll say, what about that clash, which is the clash that the Gemara is trying to figure out which one comes first. Listen to what the Rambam says. Ezo sheyirtza mehem yaktin. The Rambam says, do whatever you want. The Rambam say, as we're going to see now, by the way, all of the cases, if you notice again, this Gemara follows a pattern. What's the pattern? The pattern is that we have the hierarchy established by the Mishnah. Then if you notice again, what the Rambam does is the Rambam mixes and matches cases. Right? This started yesterday, right? The dam of the chatas comes before the dam of the ola because the dam is mechaper. But yet, the emurin of the ola are burnt before the emurin of the chatas. Why? Remember why? Because they're totally burned on the mizbeach, and the chatas is not. The chatas is not. So remember what the Gemara then asked? What about the dam? What about dam chatas and a murin of an ola? Which one comes first? Or any kind of mixture of the cases. That's what we dealt with all yesterday in the Gemara, when the Gemara didn't seem to resolve it. But the Rambam paskins the same way in all of the cases. In the cases of the Mishnah, the Rambam paskins according to the hierarchy. In all of the mix and match cases, what we'll call them, the Rambam always says the same lashon. Eze shemehem yirtze yakdim. We'll say, in other words, once you're not dealing with the hierarchy as established by the Mishnah, pretty much you can do whatever you want. You can do whichever one you want to advance, you could advance. In other words, the hierarchy only applies as stated in the Mishnah. Good. Weiter. Chatas of kodemes. Once again, remember again, the Mishnah said that the chatas ha'of comes before. What was the chatas ha'of? Chatas ha'of comes before olas ha'of. Right? Chatas ha'of comes before olas ha'of. So the Gemara says, Menahani mili. Where do I know that from? So the Tan Rabban, the Hikriv es asher lachatas rishona. Because the pasuk says, you shall go ahead and offer the one up. You shall offer up the animal ultimately again for a chatas. You shall offer up the animal that is designated as a chatas first. So we're going to see this is a case where there's a chatas and a ola. Offer up the chatas first. Ma tamud lomar. Why does the pasuk need to say this? She'ein tamud lomar lelamed shetikra rishona. So if you try to teach that the chatas is offered up first, hari kvar ne'emar v'es hasheni ya'asa ola. Well, say the pasuk already says that what? That the second karban ultimately again shall be offered up as an ola. So ultimately, the pasuk has already told me that in this particular context where there's a chatas and an ola, the ola is offered up second. If you told me the ola is offered up second, then what? I will say, what do I know? Using my powers of deduction, if the ola is offered up second, then the chatas is first. Why does the pasuk need to say the chatas is first? To which the Gemara says, Elazeb bana'av. I will say the chalachatos. I will say this pasuk is what's called the binyan av. I will say binyan av is a paradigm. Pasuk is going to teach you what's the paradigm. Sheikadmu li ola habaos imayin. So the chol chatas sheikmu lo habaos. I will say it's to teach me that ultimately again, whenever there's a chatas and an ola that is brought, chatas always comes before ola. That's the binyan av. That's the paradigm. Bein chatas ha'of la olas ha'of. But listen to this. Here's where it gets interesting. Whether Rabbi say that the two animals I'm bringing are two birds, one is a chatas, one is an ola, that I offer up the chatas before the ola, bein chatas behema li olas behema. So I'll say, or whether I'm bringing two behemos, one a chatas, one an ola, that I offer up the chatas before the ola. I'll say, now here's the novelty. Get ready for this. Afilu chatas ha'of li olas behema. Rabbi said, listen to this. Even if Rabbi said the two offerings I'm making is a chatas and an ola, and the chatas is a bird, and the ola is an animal, is actual livestock, still the chatas of the bird comes before the ola animal. Which Rabbi say is very unique because remember again, in the Mishnah, we seem to see that what? That when you have a clash between animals and birds, animals win out because they're a min zevach. Apparently now the Gemara is saying the exception to that rule is when you have two karbanos, one a chatas, one an ola. Chatas always comes before an ola, even if what? Even if the chatas is a bird and the ola is an actual animal. So the Gemara says, Hilchach, chatas ha'of la'ola sa'of meve'is hasheni. Therefore, I will say, listen to this. So now the Gemara tells you where I learn everything out from. Therefore, again, the fact that a chatas ha'of comes before the ola sa'of. So we'll say, when the clash is between birds, then I learn out the fact that the chatas comes before the ola from the phrase ve'es hasheni. Chatas behema, the olas behema. We'll say when it's two behemos, and one is a chatas, one is an ola, that a chatas behema precedes a chatas, that a chatas behema precedes an olas behema, midarabi rachmana. We'll say that I ultimately learn from the ribui in the pasuk. Chatas ha'of the olas behema. We'll say, how do I know that if I have a clash between a chatas ha'of and an olas behema, that the chatas ha'of goes first? Mizeh. So they will say ultimately again, mizeh bana av. We'll say that I learn out from the binyan av, from the paradigm that we just espoused above. So we'll say, so now, bottom line is, chatas always precedes ola. There are three cases of chatas sa'of versus ola sa'of, chatas behema versus olas behema, and chatas sa'of versus, chatas behema versus olas behema, and case number 3 is chatas sa'of versus olas behema. But I will say, bottom line in all of those cases is, take home mess, if there's one thing you remember from today's shir, it is, good. Chatas comes before ola. Right? Chatas, and I will say the novelty that's being advanced over here is that is true even if the chatas is the oaf and the ola is the behema. Quite a dramatic idea. So the Gemara goes weiter. Tashma. So we'll say again, we're not finished. We're not finished with this yet. Tashma. Rabbi Eliezer Omer. Kol makom shenischalfa chatas kodemes. So we'll say ultimately again, if you look at Rashi, kol makom shenischalfa chatas va'ofos ba'in tachtel bidalus. So we'll say any time where you have an obligation to offer up an animal as a chatos, but the Torah provides for a swap. We'll say the swap over here means that you could swap out a real animal, right? Meaning a regular animal, and offer up a bird because a person is impoverished, a person is poor. And so we'll say, so Rashi gives the example of this. Kegon b'metame mikdash di'kara chatas behema u'bedalos nischal v'shtetam. So we'll say the big example. This would be someone who enters into the Beis Hamikdash in a state of ritual impurity. So he has to bring a chatas. So really he's supposed to bring a behema. But if he's poor, he could bring birds instead. So the Gemara says, Kol makom shenischalfa chatas kodemes v'kan bioledes ola kodemes. So we'll say, interestingly enough, so in any case where you normally would have to bring an animal chatos, and you go ahead and the Torah allows you to bring a bird, so again the chatos still comes first, even though we're dealing with bird offerings. But I will say, what about in the case of yoledes? Look at Rashi. V'kan bioledes she'of tachas ola huba va'behema ikar haisa ola kodemes. Kidichsiv ba echad liola ve'echad lechatas. But I will say, interestingly enough, in the case of yoledes, the ola will come first. So apparently, what the Gemara is suggesting over here is yoledes seems to be the exception to this rule, where ultimately again she will offer up the ola before the chatas. Kol makom sheba achit chatas kodemes. Any case ultimately again where the chatas is being brought for an actual sin, then ultimately again chatas comes first. The kan, but I will say ultimately again by the case of yoledes, ola kodemes. So ultimately again the ola will come first. The chol makom sheshnayim ba'im tachas chatas kodemes. So we'll say ultimately again the kan ola kodemes. So we'll say, look at Rashi for just a moment. Chol makom sheshnayim ba'im tachas echad chatas kodemes kigon b'metame mikdash shtei ofos tachas chatas echad. So we'll say ultimately again, in the case of let's say someone who enters into the basement to say a ritual impurity, he has to bring a chatas. Normally he has to bring an animal. If he can't bring an animal because of poverty, he brings 2 birds. So any times ultimately again where it's 2 birds instead of 1 chatas animal, so chatas kodemes, chatas comes first, the kan, but by yoledes, ola kodemes. We'll say, so again you begin to see a thing what the Gemara is espousing is that what? Even though normally we have this chatas before ola construct, and it applies everywhere. Apparently, the one exception to this rule is yoledes. To which the Gemara says, Amar Rava. Rava says it's not true. Lemikra hekdima kasu. Rava says something very interesting. Rava says all the pasuk is doing. Rabbi say is say differently. The only thing the pasuk is doing is telling you to read Ola first. In other words, let me say it differently. Rava says the normal order of chatas before Ola applies by Oledes also. Don't be fooled by the order of the pasuk. The pasuk is written in a way where it sounds like Ola is before Chatos, but in fact it's not true. Chatos comes before Ola, even in the case of Yoledes. Let's look at the last Rashi on Daf Rabosai. Lemikra hektima kasuf shetei nikres beinyan tchila ava ba'avodasan Chatos kodemes kudamran mizeh banaav. So we'll say, remember again. So Rava disagrees, and Rava says even when it comes to Yoledes, even though she has Ola written first in the pasuk, it follows the binyan, follows the paradigm. Chatos comes before Ola. Good. Tashma. Parim kol mila elim. So we'll say we learned that parim, cows, right? A cow offering comes before rams. Ve'elim kol mila kvasim. Rams are offered up before sheep. Kvasim l'seirim. Sheep are offered up before goats. So what's the pshat? So we'll say again, there seems to be hierarchy of the chashivas of the animals. So let's leave aside for a moment carbonic categories. So leaving aside carbonic categories, ultimately again, the type of animal also determines precedence. So the Gemara says, "My love dechag." So we'll say, when does this come up? Right? When does this come up? Are we not talking about the karbanos of sukkis? Right? So if you have the karbanos of sukkis, ultimately again, where you have all these different types of species of animals being brought, so now the Gemara is telling me ultimately the precedent to which the Gemara says, "Lo linedava." No. This is actually talking about what? This is actually talking about karbanos nedava. So the Gemara says, so we'll say, if all of these are being offered up as nedava, then what? The Gemara gives me the carbonic hierarchy. So cows come first, then what was it? So cows, rams, sheep, goats. Right? So the Gemara says parim. So why do I have this? Why do I have this order? So parim kol mila elim. So ultimately again the cows will come before the rams. Why shekein nisrabu b'nisachim? Ultimately again I will say because they have nisachim. Right? Because the parim have more accompanying nisachim than the elim. V'chein elim lekvasim. Similarly, again, I will say rams will come before sheep. Why? Kvasim b'seirim shekein nisrabu ba'alya. We'll say interestingly enough, so cows come first because apparently again they have the most amount of what we'll call carbon add-ons, nisachim, carbonic add-ons. When it comes to sheep, I should say rams, sheep, goats. We'll say there the order is determined which animal has more fat. The fattier the animal, apparently again the more chashav it is. So it's rams, sheep, goats ultimately again is determining their precedence. Tashma. We'll say another interesting case of conflict. Par koin Mashiach, Kogan la par helam davar shel tzibur. Takes us back to our hurriest days. So we'll say let's have the par koin Mashiach, which is the special chatas offering that is brought in the event that a kohen gadol does something wrong. So we'll say that comes before par helam davar shel tzibur. We'll say that comes before the communal sin offering. Comes before the communal sin offering. Par helam davar shel tzibur kodem lepar avodas kochavim. So we'll say the par davar shel tzibur will come before the par that is offered up for a communal transgression of avodah zara. Par avodas kochavim l'siire avodos kochavim. So ultimately, again, the par of avodas kochavim, I will say, will come before the seirim of avodas kochavim. Now, I will say, now here's the part that's interesting for us, which is, look at Rashi, par avodas kochavim kodem l'siire avodos kochavim alma yesh ola kodemes lechatos. Now, I will say, the par avodas kochavim is in ola, the seir is a chatos. So the af al gav, the par avodas kochavim ola, usiire avodas kochavim chatos. So we'll say, so now we've just spent all of this time focusing on what? That chatos always comes before ola, and yet here's a case where what? Where seemingly the ola comes before the chatos. I ve'ima mereisha. But why don't you say from the beginning of this braysa, par ha'elam davar shel tzibor? So we'll say the par ha'elam davar shel tzibor is a chatos. Kodem lepar avodas kochavim is an ola. So we'll say ultimately again. So you see that. So in other words, ask the kasha from here, to which the Gemara says, Bechad mina mia lo kamina. So we'll say, in this case, the clash is not as intense. Why? Because this is a clash between a par and a par. So if I have a clash between a chatas par and an ola par, then of course the chatas par is going to win out. We'll say the interesting case over here is where you have a clash ultimately between what? You have a clash between what was the last case? The par avodas kochavim and the seiri avodas kochavim. So ki kaminon betray mini. We'll say, where are we trying to discuss this case? When you have two different types of animals being offered up. Ashkechan ola de kadma lechatas. So we'll say, here's what was interesting about this is, apparently, see, we'll say, let's take a step back. Remember, on the end of Amud Aleph, the Gemara gave me a framework for animal hierarchy. So it's par, seirim, kivasim, izim. Right? That's our hierarchy. Now, what's interesting about that hierarchy is, how does that shtim with, let's say, our categorical hierarchy? So for example, again, in our categorical hierarchy, we'll say, what did we say? That chatas comes before ola. So we'll say, yet what does the brisa do? The brisa, just showed me a case where animal hierarchy seemingly trumps categorical hierarchy. What's that case, Rabbi Say? Of where the par avodos kochavim comes before seiri avodos kochavim. Now, Rabbi Say, the par avodos kochavim is what? Is an ola, and the seir is a chatos, and yet what do you see? That the ola trumps the chatos. Why is that, Rabbi Say? Because here we're relying on animal hierarchy, i.e. the par that comes before the seir, even though the par is an ola and the seir is a chatos. Okay, interesting idea. Ar marav mishmei de Rava. So it's the same name of Rava. Bar Mari. Chatos avodas kochavim chaser aleph. So you say the difference is that in the case of chatos avodas kochavim, the pasuk is missing an aleph. Lechatos ksiv. There is no aleph in that pasuk. I will say, take a look at Rashi for just a moment. Lechatos ksiv. Rashi says it's across from Tosos chutz. Beparshas shlach lecha v'haya imeinei ha'ida nesta b'shkaga uksiv hasu musir echad lechatos chasra aleph lomar she'ino kishar chatos shekol chatos shebetor abayim ola chatos kodem zu ola kodem. So we'll say, another Gemara is trying to figure out, I don't understand, you just told me that the par ola comes before the seir chatos. But we just spent the entire Amud Aleph discussing a simple principle, which is that chatas always comes before ola. So what's the pshat? How could it be that in this case the ola comes before the chatas? So in Eretz Yisrael they said, don't worry, it's based on the pasuk. Lechatas ksiv. I will say chatas in this context is written without an aleph. So we'll say ultimately again, which teaches me that what? That although under normal circumstances the chatas comes first, in this case we let the ola go first. Ksiv. So the Gemara Ravina Amar kemishpat ksiv behu. It says kemishpat over here. Rashi says bahukra uminchasov v'nisko kemishpat mashma kemishpat seder mikrao. We'll say the word mishpat teaches me that only in this case I go in the order in which the way the pasuk is read, and not in accordance with the normal paradigm. The way it's read is ola before chatas, even though normally we do chatas before ola. Sahashta da asis lachi. Now that you said this, afilu tema parim dechagnami kamishpatam kesiv behu. But say ultimately again, I could have said the same logic. Ultimately again, by the kvasim, or excuse me, by the parim of Yom Tiv. So to which the Gemara answers kamishpatam kesibu, because ultimately again, I use the same lotion of kamishpatam. So we'll say what comes out over here is as follows. What comes out is that halacha lemaisa, the paradigm is still true. Chatas comes before oath. The one exception to the Surah Bosai sounds like what? Sounds like when it comes to par ha'elam davar minat sibor va'ya'im me'inei ha'ida ne'esta l'shkaga va'asu kol ha'ida par echad ben bakar li'ola, right, and usi'ir echad l'chata. So we'll say the exception to the rule will be in the case of par ha'elam davar shal tzibor, where you will have an ola offered up before a chatas, and the Gemara says that's the exception. That's the exception. And again, the fact that ultimately, again, the word chatas is written chaser without the aleph tells you it's the remes that ultimately this is the one case where the ola will come before the chatas, but in all other cases chatas comes before an ola. Let's finish this up. Ibayluhu chatas ha'ov va'olas behema umaiser eizem tikton. Also listen to this. Now this is a three-way tie. What happens? We'll say if I have all of these items sitting right in front of me. Chatas ha'of, olas behema, right? So if it's a chatas, but it's a bird chatas, olas behema and meiser behema. Which one comes first? So the Gemara says tikdom chatas ha'of. So say if you want to say put do chatas ha'of first, ika meiser dikadim lei. So I say ultimately again there's meiser behema which comes before chatas ha'of, like the Mishnah said, because meiser behema is still min zevach. It's still a type of carbon. Likdim meiser. If you want to say put meiser behema first, ika olas behema. We'll say ultimately again, olas behema comes before meiser behema to kamile. Tiktem le olas behema iga chatas of the kamala. We'll say if you want to say offer up the olas behema first, here's the problem. Chatos, even if it's a chatas of, comes before olas behema. So what do? Hachatar gimu min zevach adif. Ultimately, again, here we say, Rabosai, min zevach adif. Ultimately, again, what takes precedent, Rabosai, is an animal sacrifice. Therefore, again, what do? Yak Rashi says, offer up meiser behema, then chatas ha'of, and then olas behema. B'ma'arava amri, ayli be olas behema, b'chatas ha'of, v'agbas sami meiser. Ultimately, again, in Eretz Yisrael, they said Rabosai is what? Offer up chatas ha'of first, because that is more chashiv. Ultimately, again, then ola, and then meiser behema. So Rabosai, the bottom line order which comes from Eretz Yisrael is chatas ha'of, because chatas always trumps. Chatas is the most chashiv. Then ultimately, again, ola, and then meiser behema. Good. Says the Mishnah. Let's go a little bit weiter. Kol chatos shabatorah called most lashamos. So we'll say in general, any chatos will always come before any ashama. So we'll say, remember again, now chatos and asham are both sin offerings. Now what the Mishnah is telling me is that when there is a chatos asham clash, we offer up chatos before asham chutz mi asham mitzora, but also with one exception, which is the asham mitzora. Sorry. Good. Fine. So okay, I was going to go back and there's some interesting pieces on the last part, but we'll leave it. So whenever there's a clash between a chatas and an asham, chatas always comes first, with the exception of asham mitzora. Why? Because asham mitzora ultimately again endows the mitzora with kosher status. Therefore, it comes first. Kol hashama shabatorah ba'in b'nei shtayim u'ba'in kesef shkalim. We'll say in general, ashamos have to be 2 years old, right? Have to be 2 years old, by b'nei shtayim, and ultimately again have a minimum value of 2 shkalim. Chutz me asham nazir va'asham mitzora. We'll say with the exception of asham nazir, asham mitzora, shehein ba'in b'nei shnasan. We'll say they are only brought when they are a year old. Ve'ein ba'in b'kasef shkalim. And I will say ultimately again, they have no minimum value of 2 shkalim. Kashem shekol min bak rabasan, kol min bachilasan. The same way ultimately again that they come first in their offering, they also take precedence in consumption. So we'll say, so now we're going to see different cases of consumption conflict. Shlamim shal emesh l'shlamim shal yom. So we'll say, so now what the Gemara is going to talk about is the following, which is up until now, we'll say, we've been talking about different types of precedent when it comes to offering. Now the Mishnah is going to switch gears a little bit and talk about precedent when it comes to consumption. If offering has already been done and you have 2 different karbanos ultimately again that need to be consumed, which one do you consume first? So we'll stop over here. We'll pick up in Meretz Hashem with this part of the Mishnah in Meretz Hashem tomorrow.
In your letter says the reason
for kapara, right?
What's
it's also, look, the truth is, the Pasha says many who say that chatos is for Shvuah Shav, because